So, welcome, gentlemen, to episode 4 of Curse of Strahd. Um, Last week, uh, these adventurers here found themselves at the gates, tall, crumbled structures in a distant land, or what looked like a distant land. You came through the mists, and when you came through the mists, um, everything just looked a little different, and as you made your way towards these tall stone structures of these warriors bisecting a wooden gate with tall stone swords in their hands and their heads toppled into the forest floor below, one of the wheels of the lead cart you'd been traveling on with people called the Vistani, creaked and broke. And Stanimir, the leader of the caravan, urged you guys to make your way down the road into a town called Barovia, which you did. Along the way, a wafting scent of death came up from out of the woods as you were making your way towards the tall gates, and you tiptoed through the brush to find a severed hand tightly clutching a sealed envelope, which you opened and read, and essentially it seemed like a warning of some sort to all ye who enter here turn back, was kind of the gist in this old. It was written in kind of a strange way, and you pocketed the letter. Nuru pocketed the letter, and you guys made your way down the road, and eventually coming into view were the shadowy shapes of these structures um, ahead of you. And as you got closer and closer, you started to realize that this small hamlet of Barovia was fairly desolate. There were no people in the streets, except for in the distance um, the wagon wheels you could hear of an old woman pushing her little cart over the cobblestone roads, and many of the buildings were worn and scratched and burned and beaten, and a few of them had light spilling out from the upper level windows. Um, you investigated the quiet, desolate little village, peeking into one of the nearby house windows and seeing some shadowy shapes. And I believe somebody made a little too much noise, and some undead, lifeless corpses. Well, lifeless is the wrong word, but some undead
Eh,
burst through the windows. Some zombie-like humanoid creatures spilling out into the cobblestone streets, and you battled them. Uh, uh, and after you killed them, um, you tried to seek refuge in one of the homes with uh, who seemed to have more human life in them, and that didn't go so well. You kind of spooked the residents, but you noticed some holy symbols around, and uh, not being able to seek shelter in any of the other nearby homes when you entered Barovia, you made your way towards the center of town, where you found a small inn called Blood on the Vine. And um, making your way inside, you found a group of what appeared to be more Vistani, three women who seemed to be cajoling, harassing a man drinking alone in the back of the bar. And instead of interacting with those women, you chose to go and sit with this man who revealed himself to be someone by the name of Ismark. The Vistani women were calling him Ismark the Lesser, and he was kind of drowning his sorrows, and he explained to you that his sister, over the past few nights, had been visited by a creepy guy at their residence, and um, you agreed to come with him to his home, where you met his sister Irina, and you also noticed that there was a dead body lying in a makeshift coffin off in a side room, and Ismark and Irina offered you lodging for the night, as long as you promise to help them bring their dead father to the graveyard, the priest, to give him a proper burial, and then help Ismark bring his sister to a much safer place where this shadowy figure could no longer harass his beloved sister. And so you guys had a not so tasty dinner. It seemed like a lot of the food was kind of old and spoiled, but they offered you food and drink and gave you your own private rooms for the night. And your companion, Nice Snow, for some reason, kind of was consumed and overwhelmed by some deeply seated sadness within her, and she was somewhat comforted by Nuru before you guys made your way to your rooms and to bed. So I would like you all to make some Constitution saving throws for me. And you can make them with advantage.
Also, Nice to know you might want to check that GM isn't ticked.
Yeah, Nice to know, Nuru. You guys are both rolling to GM.
Okay.
Whoops.
That's okay. Yeah, you don't have to re-roll them. The rolls are good. You don't have to re-roll.
No.
Yeah.
No, I'm just putting it up there just so.
Yeah. Well, the people on the stream can see. If you roll the GM, anybody watching the stream can see whatever. Even if you just roll it to me. Yeah. So.
Understood.
It's more for you guys. Yeah, Nuru rolled a nat 20. Nice Snow rolled a 16, and Ricky got a 13 on their con saves. Ricky, you have a kind of a strange dream in the night. You wake up kind of feeling fuzzy, a little off, and you have this kind of strange dream where at some point there was kind of a tapping at your window, and the dream you have is that you kind of woke up out of bed and went over to your window in the Indirovich mansion and kind of pulled the curtains back, and you were met on the second story with a person and looking you face to face in the eyes. She's kind of very pale and has had a big mane of bright red hair that kind of streaked back behind her with one kind of white, solid white streak down the center. And she was very beautiful, and she had kind of these yellow eyes and freckles that kind of spattered across the bridge of her nose. And as you kind of pulled your curtains back, she grinned at you, and in your dream you remember her asking you to let her in, and kind of charmed by her beauty and the musical sound of her voice, you lifted the latch up on your window and pushed the window up, and the woman kind of floated into your room. And when you wake up in the morning, you kind of feel fuzzy and off, and you reach up and feel your neck, and you can feel two little puncture wounds just above your collarbone. It's kind of hidden by the high collar of your overcoat that you had kind of passed out in from just sheer exhaustion from the travel and the battle and the new environment that you find yourself in. But you reach up and touch your neck, and there are these two little, and you actually see little blots of red on the ends of your little fingers as you pull your hand away, waking up from this dream.
Knowing this, I'm going to freak out a little. I'm then going to attempt to hide it as much as possible with the collar.
Sure. As you guys wake up, you can see that as you come Ricky, as you get up and come out, you see already Nuru and Nice Snow standing at the bottom of the stairs with Irina and Ismark. And it seems that Irina has kind of a black lace undershirt. She's got these long black lace sleeves that come all the way down to her wrists, and a high black lace collar kind of concealing her neck as well. And she's wearing this kind of like worn wrought iron breastplate that's has this elaborate, intricate design. And it looks kind of ill-fitting on her, so it would probably belong to Ismark and Irina's father, and it's something that Ismark has made Irina put on. There are these dark worn leather straps on the shoulders, and they kind of the breastplate sits like loosely over the top of her slender frame, and it's got more leathered buckles down at the waist, and she's got a kind of deep blood red gown that sprawls out from, but not quite a gown, but like a skirt essentially that drops down from underneath the breastplate, and then this black lace shirt above it, and her silky brown hair is kind of pulled back in a tight braid that she's probably done herself, and she actually has a long scabbard at her waist with a kind of very intricately designed golden hilt that you can see the kind of ends of the hilt have little they look like half sun, like a little sunrise is coming up on each end of the hilt of the blade, and they're all kind of grouped around at the base of the stairs next to the coffin as you kind of make your way last out of your room, a little hazy and dizzy. That was a mouthful for a recap and a start, so I'm sorry about that. But
So good.
yeah. And you look down the stairs at everyone. They all kind of turn and look up at you. And Ismark says, we have a saying here in Barovia, which is the early bird gets the worm. You obviously are not an early bird.
Never liked worms.
And as you kind of make your way down the stairs, Ismark says, there's kind of gray light now at the bottom level of the home, spilling in through all the windows, and you kind of look around now as it's more kind of early morning, and there's kind of just a gray haze inside of the house. You can kind of see where the little shafts of dull light are coming through between the curtains and all the side rooms. You can kind of see little dust mites floating as the light peeks through, and Ismark says, the chapel is just up through the center of town, past the inn. I have not been there in some time, but I have made a promise to my sister, so once we bury our father, we can leave this accursed place. Even though it is morning, Strahd's always watching, and so just be sure to keep up your guard. And he kind of moves over. He looks at you, Nice Snow, and he looks over at the coffin, and he goes to grab the lid, and he's kind of indicating for you to help him put the lid up onto the coffin with him. And as you guys kind of drag the heavy lid up onto the coffin, he goes over to, there's like a little side table, and there's an old kind of heavy-hafted little hand hammer there with a few nails, and he begins to hammer nails into the lid of the wooden coffin that it appears that Irina and Ismark probably made themselves. And Ismark says, "We will carry my father to the church, and hopefully Donovich will be able to perform a ceremony for him. We will dig our father's grave, and then we will leave this place, and we will never look back. I was supposed to become Burgomaster after my father died, but I have no intention of ever coming back to the town of Barovia." And he kind of grabs one side of the coffin, and he looks at Nuru, and he looks at Nice Snow, and he kind of tilts his head at Ricky and realizes you're not really probably going to be able to help carry the coffin, and then looks at Irina, and he says, "My sister, are you ready?" And Irina just nods. She puts her left hand on the hilt of the sword, and she says, "I am ready, Brother Ismark. Thank you for helping me. I know that you wanted to leave much sooner than this, but I could not bear the thought of Father just rotting away in our sitting room." And she looks to the rest of you and she says, "And thank all of you as well. We would not have been able to complete this task on our own."
The dead should be honored and be allowed to reach their rightful resting place.
Agreed.
I clap excitedly and say, "I'll get the door," and I go in the door for them.
Nuru glares after Ricky.
Ricky does not see this.
Like, Nuru isn't. It's like, what social graces do you not possess?
Out of context, he's never had a family, so this is irrelevant.
Yeah.
So, Ismark kind of, you guys all together kind of lift the coffin up, kind of shoulder height, getting it up above you. Does anybody have like a negative strength modifier?
All of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
You
All
will?
of us.
Do you really?
Our
Oh
strong
my!
person isn't here today.
Holy shit!
Yeah, we all are pretty bad. Like, Nice Snow looks pretty, but she's not that strong.
So because of everyone who's helping, of their devotion to honoring the dead, just make some strength checks with advantage for me.
No, I really want to.
Oh my god!
Or does it have to be strength?
Come
Can
on,
it be
natural.
athletics?
Come on, natural one.
If you're proficient in strength. Anytime I say make a strength check, if you're proficient in athletics, you can make athletics. Anytime I say make a dex check, if you're proficient in acrobatics, you can make acrobatics.
Come on, natural
So,
one. I
I'm
want
not
to drop this
proficient.
coffin.
But Jack of all trades makes it a -1 instead of a -2.
Oh yes! Come on, one more fail and we drop this coffin. Yes! We all suck. It's awesome.
Wait, did you roll?
Oh, sorry.
GM.
Yeah. Sorry. I rolled something else that.
Yeah.
I
Well,
need to-
Ismark fairly easily kind of gets his side of the coffin kind of up off the ground. He's kind of standing up near the front with Irina, and they both kind of lift together. And Nuru and Nice Snow, you guys are kind of standing near the back.
Yeah.
And
Nice Nose feeling exhausted from her late night sobbing, so she's just like, ugh, and it just exemplifies, and she just self-reflects and hates herself for being so weak. Hates it.
And so Nuru, you're just looking at this like very fresh, nice wood, and you're like, just have this inscrutable urge to start clawing at the back of the coffin, so you're not quite able to focus on lifting. And as Ismark and Irina are kind of there, looking a little strained, holding up their side of the coffin, looking at you guys, they set it back down, and Irina says, I'm sorry. I think that my father has been so worried about me that he's probably been stress eating before he died. Um, and
Nice Snow actually said this: the vice of gluttony is
Ricky
not
just
something mortal should indulge in. And then she glares at you quickly and then back.
Ricky just looks at these two people double his size and goes, "Come on!"
Ismark says, perhaps if we don't try to lift the coffin so high, maybe we carry it at waist height and the halfling can help.
Nuru is going to. His eyes are his brows. No, brows are.
Brow line. Yeah.
You realize what happens to a person's body once it's passed, right? And he's going to try very hard not to smell anymore.
Not to smell?
Because, when like a body...
Yeah. There's a lot of like flower garlands around the coffin and stuff, but the scent of death, the body's been there for 3 days at least, and so there's still definitely a scent of. Ismark says, "Well, I see now that this was going to be more difficult than I had imagined it, so perhaps I should open the door first." And
I opened the door.
Oh, okay. Ricky kind of walks over and just opens the front door, and as you do,
I got glared at for it. I opened the door, and
well, as you push the door open, Ricky, there were 3 or 4 little ravens sitting on the ironwrought fence, kind of right outside of the front door of their mansion. And as you push the door open, they kind of all caw in unison, and they start flapping their wings, and they kind of hover there for a moment, and then they kind of take off into the mist. And Ismark says, "Oh, well, at least one of us is 2 steps ahead. And let's try again. Maybe we keep the coffin a little lower so the halfling can help. And you guys all just make normal strength athletics checks now for me.
No.
And roll better, please."
Come on. Yes! Come on, fail for Nice Snow. Let Ricky be the strongest of us.
He's the little powerhouse.
Stop going to the GM.
Yes! Yes! So good. So these 2 tall people trying to hold this, and Ricky's just like, "I got this."
Just for reference, Ricky is under 3 feet and weighs less than 40 pounds.
So Ismark and Irina again kind of lift up their side of the coffin, and then they lift it, maybe like a foot or a foot and a half up, and they have it kind of resting there in their clutches. And then Ricky scurries underneath, and he pushes up, and he's ready to lift. And then just Nuru and Nice Snow at the other end of the coffin, you're like shredding, like you can definitely see like on Naru's brow, like the fur is starting to look kind of wet from like sweating, and Nice Snow, you can see little beads of sweat now coming also down like the front of her forehead. And it's not so much that it's not so much that it's like the coffin is heavy for you guys, but it's more the embarrassment. Like it just starts to feel a little uncomfortable.
It's probably the most straining you've seen in Nice Snow.
Yeah.
Like normally she has
there's like a little vein. There's like a little vein coming out on your white forehead.
It's the only blue. It's the only color on her forehead. It's just like the blue vein.
So you guys, go ahead, Nuru. Yeah, go ahead.
Cats sweat through their paws.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah.
Her paws.
So Nice Snow, you look down next to like when you guys let go, you look down and like you can see little paw prints, little like wet paw prints on Naru's side of the coffin, and And you guys kind of look at each other like very embarrassedly, especially after that moment that you shared together the night before.
Yeah.
And
Nice Snow looks at Nehru and is just like breathing
wow,
heavy, like,
this is
and then just looks away real quick and continues holding it, just
this
like
is going to
focusing.
be the hardest monster that you guys fight during the entire campaign.
Gravity. The
So
worst enemy.
Ismark and Irina sat there half down again, and Ismark lets out his shoulders kind of slump over, and he lets out like a frustrated sigh, and Irina goes, I don't think that I offered you guys enough food last night. You looked very tired and weak, and we should have offered you more rest. Perhaps that we are not ready to move my father yet. And Ismark says, no, we are doing this today.
Nice Snow pipes up with a, is there any other means to get some form of load bearing or cart? And it's weird because she has a hard time knowing the name cart.
Ismark says, I know who I can ask, but it's going to cost us.
Nuru is going to tilt his head to the side. Does this person happen to sell pastries?
He says, no.
Oh.
We have a shopkeeper in Barovia who has a very strong shop boy, but his prices are outrageous, and he will not lend us help for free.
We could try
Kind
another
of outrageous.
He would sell you a day's ration for 5 gold. 20 times the price that they should be.
How much to help move something, do you think?
100 gold at least.
Noticing the jingle cat, I turn around and look at him.
What? Money's being discussed? Oh, sorry. Naru's ears stopped working.
Since you two can't lift, perhaps you would like to purchase the man to take your place.
Irina says, we can give him father's sword. And Ismark says, no. That is our last defense against the vampires.
Naru is going to pipe up. If needed, I can cover the cost, but perhaps we could try one more time. Just in case. Maybe.
What? Why don't you offer him your father's house, since we're leaving? A house to help carry a coffin. That is more than a fair deal.
Ismark's eyes kind of open very wide, and he looks down at you, Ricky, and he says, I did not think of that. I just planned on leaving our father's home here to rot.
Why
I
not?
have no intention of returning to Barovia. I'm glad you are here, Halfling. That is a very good idea.
Nice Snow also says, what is that other load-bearing thing? It has one wheel or two, and has
unicycle
handles.
Wheelbarrow.
And she points to you, she's like, do we have a wheelbarrow? That might make this easier.
I don't think a coffin would fit in a wheelbarrow.
Yeah, like Irina and Ismark both kind of look at you, and they look down at the coffin, and they look at you.
Yeah, and clearly, like, you guys are getting the idea that she probably hasn't been around that much. Like, she's struggling to even summon up these words.
I think we should sell the house.
Yeah, so, Irina says, Ismark, no, you cannot let Bildrath own our home. And Ismark says, Irina, we will never return here to Barovia. It is too dangerous. Strahd will never stop coming for you. It is sad, certainly, just like Father's death, but we have to protect ourselves. Bildrath will take our home, and he will let Periwimble help us bring Father to the graveyard. And so Ismark says, you may come if you like, but I'm going to go negotiate with Bildrath. And if you guys want to go with Ismark to do so, you can. Otherwise, Ismark will just go quickly offer Bildrath the home for a little assistance in getting the coffin to the graveyard.
I
Nice.
assume he's confident in the fact that that transaction would be agreeable, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I won't go with him. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, nice no also go along with this.
So do you want to?
I'll stay
You
by
just wanna
Irina with
You
the
want
coffin.
to hang, or do you want to go?
Nice no wants to go with him to
Okay.
the thing.
Ricky will stay behind.
Nuru.
He sees no reason in going.
Okay. So as you follow up the main road out of Ismark and Irina's home, before you get to the town square, there's another large building, essentially, that is right here on the corner, kind of opposite of the inn that you guys went in the night before you came and stayed with Ismark and Irina. And there's a bit of sparse light coming from this building as well that spills out into the kind of gray cobblestone street from like drawn heavy curtains. And there's a sign over the door, kind of creaks on its hinges as you, Nice Snow, and Ismark approach. And there's a little raven sitting on the top, kind of looking down at both of you appraisingly as you make your way up towards the entrance of the building, and it says Bildrath's Mercantile. And as you come in, you see kind of a squat, middle-aged, bald man. You know, the top of his head is kind of bare, and there's little tuft around the outside edges, and he has these very narrow, dark eyes, and kind of these pinched, pursed lips, and there's little kind of blotches on the top of his head, and he looks very drab and gray. And as you guys both come in, Bildrath says, Ismark the Lesser, it has been so long. The last time you were here, you were just but a boy. What do you need? You must be quite desperate to show your face in my shop. And Ismark tries to kind of puff his chest out and hold his head up high, his kind of platinum blonde hair. He kind of shakes his head out and he says, my father has died. We need to bring his body to the chapel. I request Periwimple's help. And Bildrath looks like he's about to say something, but Ismark holds up his hand and he says, I know that you're less than favorable to the people of Barovia. And you would take nothing less than a man's heart and soul as a price for simple assistance. I offer you my father's home. We will not be returning to Barovia once he is in the ground. And you see these long fingers kind of tapping on the table excitedly. And the old man kind of looks over his shoulder and he says, Periwimple, I have some work for you today. And a kind of hunchbacked boy comes out from a back room, kind of stumbling over his own 2 feet, but his shoulders are kind of rippling with muscle, his shoulders and his arms, and he's got this very thick neck, kind of a small head, and this mess of brown hair, and this very, like, sparse, thin mustache and chin hair, and one of his eyes is a little bigger than the other, and he limps out, and he says, Yes, Bildrath. What? How can I help you? And Bildrath says, Nephew, you're going to help Ismark and Irina bring their father to his grave. And Periwimple says, Yes, uncle, yes, I will. And he seems very excited to do something. You can see he even has kind of like a, on his left leg at the ankle, there's like a metal, there's like a metal clamp that looks like it has a little protrusion off of it that a chain can be attached or locked to.
So like a shackle.
Yeah, shackle essentially, and he comes out from around the counter. There's kind of like a flapper or a counter that could probably be lifted so somebody of normal height could pass through, but he kind of just hunchedly walks underneath it and stops at Nice Snow and Ismark's feet, and he looks up at you kind of with these watery, sad eyes, and he says, I will help you carry. And Ismark looks down at Periwimple and he says, he pulls a set of keys out of his pocket and he looks up from Periwimple to Bildrath and he tosses them out kind of aggressively, and they hit the old man in the chest and fall on the counter in front of him. And he says, Ismark says, I hope I never see your old wretched face again. And he turns and he says, Come, Periwimple. Thank you for your help. And you guys, the 3 of you, make your way back down towards Ismark and Irina's home. And Nuru and Ricky, you see Ismark and Nice return with this hunched boy, and he seems very excited to be out in the streets and out in the world, and he's kind of, as he enters, he's kind of clapping his hands, and he says, Periwimple will help. He will help carry. And everyone can again make strength checks with advantage to, and Periwimple kind of comes up beside you, Ricky, and he turns his head towards you and he says, we help.
Nice Snow is so weak. She needs to get on that gym life.
Wow, a 0 and a 5.
I would have killed for that 0. I could at least re-roll that.
Oh, so
Instead, I got
funny.
a fucking 2. And a 15. 15's good.
That's so funny. So funny.
I apologize.
Yet again.
I apologize to you all in advance. None of you are going to make it out of Barovia alive.
Yeah.
I am the little powerhouse.
You know what our weakness is now, GM. Use it with meticulous hands.
I didn't intend to drink my entire bottle of wine.
You're just like, not my problem. Not my problem.
But like I said before we were recording, my penchant to kill you does not increase with my level of intoxication, so it remains an even line, you know.
So pour the champagne.
Yes,
What
Rick.
is Julong's strength? What is Julong's strength? If he was here.
Oh man.
It's very low. Yeah.
Is it better than a
It's a
7?
it's a 0. It's a 0.
It's
That's
better
the
than us.
strongest out of all of us.
So that's a strength roll for Julong. A 6 and a
Oh my
1.
God.
Yeah, that's a
This is
That's
so
better than all
terrible.
of us.
We should just trade the house for the cart. We should just trade.
but it's okay because as Ismark and Irina lift their end of the coffin, and Ricky's standing there kind of halfway between Ismark and Irina, and Nuru and Nice Snow, Periwinkle kind of lumbers over to the back of the coffin, and he puts his hands down between you, and he lifts up and you just feel the coffin like fly up into the air, and you see these just like taut, massive shoulders tense under the weight of the other side, and you guys kind of like let go, and Periwimple's just there. He smiles up at you, Nuru, and he smiles up at you, Nice Snow, and he says, "Periwimple, help! Periwimple, help!"
Would Nuru see the shackle? Or, like, is the shackle very visible?
Yeah, it's just like he's got these kind of like very worn, kind of pea green, lime green colored leggings on, and these very worn ankle high little leather shoes, and he's got like this kind of moth eaten brown overshirt that just barely, it's kind of like eaten away in many places, so you can see like little patches of skin, and his hair's like very greasy, and he doesn't look like anybody takes very good care of him.
Nuru is going to he's just gonna give him one over, and his tail is just gonna be flicking from side to side in a show of agitation.
Sure.
Agitation, to put it lightly.
Periwimple's got his hands there, the coffin's over his head, and he looks up at you, Nuru, and he looks back over at you, Nice Snow, and he says, "You help! You help!" And then he says, "Ismark, we go!" And Ismark, over the other side of the coffin, says, "Yes, Periwimple, we go." And he looks at the rest of you, and he looks over at Irina, and he says, "Let's put our father to rest." And they kind of shift the weight of the coffin over, and you guys make your way through the wide door of Ismark and Irina's home out into the street. And you can see now, almost instantly, as you guys come out into the street with Ismark and Irina's dead father's coffin, Periwimple and Nuru and Nice Snow at the back, and Ricky just kind of marching alongside. There's like a crack of thunder just as you breach the door frame of the home, and everything goes kind of quiet, and a mist kind of rolls down through the alleys, side streets of Barovia, and a very black cloud over on the edge of town, where there's this 1,000-foot tall stone pillar with a massive castle looming over this small town of Barovia, gazing down upon it with seemingly every brick feels like an eye gazing down upon you. This rolling black cloud kind of appears as you guys make your way out into the streets with Irina and the coffin, and all of you in succession, a cacophony up through the streets, and the mist just kind of rolls in and just stops at the edge of the road, kind of creating this wall of mist between you all, and you can hear the flapping of like 1,000 wings, but you can't see any movement. And
Can Nice Snow make a roll to perceive what this is and if she knows what it is?
Yeah, I would say you can make a perception check, or even an insight check. Perception or insight, your choice.
This is more of an insight for me.
That's some pretty fog there.
And we're just getting all the bad rolls out early.
You feel your knees buckle a little bit, like your hands slip off of the coffin.
Like she looks down at her knees, like, what the hell?
And you don't know what it is, but you feel this, like all the little hairs on the back of your neck stand up taut. And,
she doesn't understand what that is.
And you can even see all the little white blonde hairs, Nuru, on Nice Nose arm, all kind of go up, like they've been affected by like a little static electricity. They all kind of stand up straight on edge. And then after a little bit, there's another like strike crash of light that slashes out across the sky, and a rumble of thunder that seems like it's like the ground. It's so loud the ground's gonna split underneath you. But Ismark says, and like everyone except Periwinkle kind of falters. Periwinkle kind of falters, and Ismark says, "We must get to the chapel."
Nice Nose like, we must hurry, fast, and she's gonna like redouble her efforts.
Yeah.
Me too.
And you guys make your way up through the streets of Barovia with the mist closing in all around you, and you can still kind of hear off in the distance just the flapping of wings, and it's just sounds like hundreds of wings just flapping out in the mists. And
Nice Nose getting paranoid. Would she be able to cast dancing lights?
Sure. Well, what is it? What are the components? If it's a somatic component, you would have to take your hand off the coffin.
Yeah, it's a somatic.
Yeah.
She wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, you're not helping much.
Yeah. Nice Nose, let's go, and nobody knows the difference.
Yeah, like honestly, you could, and nobody would know.
Just saying, Ricky is putting in more effort than Nice Snow and Nuru combined.
I don't think Nuru is actually even carrying the coffin with a 5.
I'd like to imagine one of you is just grossed out by the body, so you're just touching it with a pinky.
So, like, have any of you ever helped someone move? And you're like trying to lift. You're trying to lift something heavy, and like there's somebody that's like bearing all the weight, and you try to like look like you're helping, but like you're really not helping.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like Periwinkle's at the back of the coffin, and that's what it's like for the two of you guys. Like you're touching the coffin, but you're not really helping lift the coffin. It's like.
Well, I will say my experience. While I've never been in that position because I always put in the effort, I've seen people do it, so it's funny.
I've been a pallbearer. Trust me, you can feel the people who aren't doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nuru is he's like accidentally pricking the coffin with his claws because his claws are just out due to the atmosphere.
So you guys kind of slowly make your way up the streets. Go ahead, Nice Snow.
So what Nice Snow would have did was Nice Snow would have let go and cast dancing lights around them, and basically just have the lights centered on each one of us, trying to radiate out the light so we can see a bit better, to like just in case something happens. And then she'd quickly try to grab back on and push up. So would I be able to make a strength roll, or to see if I can lift this up to hurry us along?
The coffin's cool. Like it's Periwinkle's like got it. He's got it. It's like you take your hands away, and like Nuru, you got your hands on the coffin as well, and you don't even feel like a buckle or a budge. Like Periwimple's got the back end of the coffin, and but you see Nice No take his hands away, and he begins to cast a spell, and all these kind of globes of light come out from the ends of Nice No's fingers, and they kind of settle on the tops of your guys' heads. And as you make your way to just before the intersection of Barovia, just outside of the door of Periwimple's uncle's shop, there's a heavy mist just ahead in the town square. And because you cast these dancing lights, you see walking through the mist this shaggy form. And Ismark kind of stops the procession, and you see this kind of head turn. And the only reason that you guys notice is because of these globes of light that Nice No has put out, and you see the glare back at you of two big round eyes, and then it passes closer and stops there right in front of you all, and it's this big, shaggy, dark wolf. And it stops and it stares at you all holding the coffin, and then it prods back towards the mist and disappears out of your sight. And Ismark, you can feel the weight of the coffin kind of shift as Ismark takes a deep breath, and you kind of hear Irina whisper, "We're halfway there."
Living on a prayer.
I would give you inspiration, but I know you have one, and you guys.
I don't have
Oh,
it.
we have not used.
All right,
I'm the only
Ricky.
one without it.
Ricky, I give you inspiration. It gets you an inspiration.
Yeah, for being the only one who's putting in enough effort to lift this coffin.
Well, he's the bard, and he's doing halfway there now, and
Halfway there, lifting the coffin and playing at the same time.
Yeah, playing at the same time. Yeah, he's got
It is a pan flute. It is a pan flute.
He's got his instrument in his mouth. He's got one finger on the middle of the center of the coffin, and you guys pass.
I actually imagine him underneath the coffin, just pushing straight up.
So you guys make your way through the town square, and up through. Ismark kind of takes like a bit of a turn, and through the mist you kind of approach a new structure. You guys go up a bit of a slight rise, and all this time you've been heading towards this 1,000-foot tall stone pillar that looms high above, just disappears in the mist that you saw when you first left Ismark and Irina's home. And before you stands this kind of sagging edifice of stone and wood. This church that comes into your vision has obviously been weathered by the assault of evil for centuries and is worn and weary. There's a bell tower rising up from the back of it, and a flickering light shines through holes in the shingled roof. The rafters strain feebly against the load of the bell tower and the building as a whole. And I have to pee, or else I can't continue. So, BRB.
Intermission.
2-minute break.
As we're all just standing there holding the coffin, not knowing why we're not moving.
Yeah.
God, is that you?
Nice No. Oh. Somebody's already on the crap list. Like, just. Ooh.
Somebody wants to-
Yeah. What was that guy's? What was that guy's name again? Bildrath, or Bill.
Something like that, and then
Uh-huh.
Periwinkle is the
No.
I think it's Periwinkle.
Periwinkle is like
hunchback.
It's
if
Periwinkle.
Wimple.
Mm-hmm.
That makes no sense. He's not a wimp. He's tough.
He keeps on saying Periwinkle on accident, I think. Or he said Periwinkle on accident once.
Okay. Because ooh, Nice No wants to have some divine retribution on that asshole.
Nuru will help.
Thinking if they don't want them to have the house, we could burn it down, but he's not willing to say it.
Naru's gonna maybe suggest, just a little bit of murder.
No. Nice No is not about that murder. She wants that guy to be brought low.
Naru really isn't about murder.
So removing his legs. Got it.
But I think he's going to suggest to Periwinkle, you should come with us. And also, Naru's part of the coffin just has a bunch of little tiny claw marks in it because he's nervously flexing.
You're going to make the body fall out the bottom. Are you happy now?
No, it's on the side.
Real quick, both of you make a perception check for Nice No.
I mean, I can just fail it, but sure.
Do I get advantage?
Yeah, because she's not even hiding it. Yeah. You definitely notice that she is a bleeding heart for Periwinkle. She's
Naru too.
She's just like, there's chains on this person and they are so kind and generous and helpful, and that guy has so real quick, could you put down the names of both those people, Periwinkle and the other guy that
for
owns
sure.
him?
Absolutely.
I bet you $10 is Periwinkle and not Periwinkle.
It is Periwimple. It's not Periwinkle, but I started saying Periwinkle because why not?
Yeah. And just assumption.
Irina's calling him Periwinkle because she has a soft spot for him as well.
I'm just gonna call him Pezza. Pezza, mate.
Naru doesn't know anything about the guy, but he just sees this try. Periwinkle's a try.
So the merchant's name is Bildrath.
Disgusting name.
And the boy that's helping you is Periwimple. Let's see if he has a handout. Unfortunately, he does not.
Oh, this poor kid doesn't even
he doesn't have one yet. Yeah.
We will make him one.
Strength of 87.
Well, he's supposed to be essentially inconsequential. There's times that you're supposed to feel kind of desperate when you come into Barovia, so this is the only shopkeeper here, and it's he offers you anything that you might have forgot before you found yourself in Strahd's realm, but for 20 times the price. So when you start to aren't willing to accept that price, he calls Periwinkle to beat the shit out of you. But instead, I thought this was more fun.
Does he have an NPC sheet?
Oh yeah, he's got a NPC sheet for sure. Yeah.
What is his strength? I'm guessing 16.
Hey.
18.
18. Nice.
Yeah, he's got an 18 strength.
So intelligence is low.
It's 6. It's 6. Yeah, it's 6.
Woo. Oh man.
I thought it was a more fun way to use him. And it came up naturally, so.
Yeah.
Ricky's suggestion, Clutch to sell, just give the house away,
It makes if the characters are planning on leaving,
MVP, I don't care what else happens, MVP of the session.
I mean,
because you guys were never getting that fucking coffin out of there.
It would.
Yeah.
It would have been the.
All right.
It would have been the slowest procession.
I mean, if we had the cleric here who
Yeah.
had the most strength and given us all guidance, we would have done it.
Well, the cleric, yeah, I mean, he can. It's a guidance.
is an extra thing.
It's a concentration spell though, so you can only give one person guidance.
Guidance isn't concentration.
Yes, it is.
Is it?
Yep.
Wait. Guidance?
Yep. It's a concentration. It's a concentration spell.
It is. One then. I didn't actually know that.
Huh.
Huh.
Everybody uses it wrong.
Smarter every day.
Yeah. Everybody uses it wrong. Yeah.
Oh,
I had every time I've had the last time I ran Curse of Strahd, essentially, I had a druid in the party that liked to use guidance, and so he used it so often that I got tired of dealing with it, and so...
So you went to look up the actual rules on it?
Well, no. He was a druid, he wasn't a cleric, he was a druid, so I was like, well, the druid makes you all guidance crowns, and they just got to roll 1d4 the rest of the campaign on their shit, if they really needed it. Yeah. Because like, stop saying guidance.
Yeah, that's why
Such a
I'm rolling my thing in the background, so if I don't even have to say it.
Yeah,
also,
no,
that
for
rolling in the background, that's so exploitable, because if you're not in combat, you just roll it till you get +8. Like, if you want
No,
to
it's just one. It's like he does one roll. How long does the spell last?
an hour. 1 hour.
So
An hour until you.
So nice now. Re-roll for me now, I guess.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
been an hour.
Yeah, it's been an hour.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good
Yeah.
to know.
Yeah.
All right.
If the spell lasts an hour, then yeah, re-roll for me.
But
Yeah.
With a douchebag player, they could just re-roll it till they got 8.
No, it's I would essentially take it until you guys had a combat, but it's been an hour, you know.
Yeah. We need to come up with like a quick cue, so therefore I know.
If there's
I mean,
if there's a DM that's letting a douchebag player do that, then
They're a douchebag DM.
yeah, they're a douchebag DM. Yeah.
I mean, in theory, you could just roll it once and then it, like, just... we know you're casting it every hour. We could just keep that roll.
I mean,
until
yeah, I
you
would have.
take that damage.
Essentially, I would have taken that until you guys had a combat. You know, but
until you take
Yeah.
damage.
just keep your 8. Just keep your 8. Nice, no, keep your 8.
No, it's a 6. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's keep going. No mistakes. Let's go.
So you guys make your way to the front of this church, essentially.
Looks churchy.
I'm gonna move the map a little and bring you guys down.
It's very black. It's a black church. Got it.
Scroll down.
Yeah, I found it now. I think my token this last one on.
Huh. I actually like that Neru's token is looking to the left. Hemdriel, or blah. Why is it still saying that? I think you need to change
swap
it.
sides. We'll both stare at nice though.
No, I think DM. I think you need to change the name setting for it.
Oh yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, just like make it permanently nice. No.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's weird. Oh, okay, no, I see. I see what it did.
It's because you would have saved it with the old name.
Yeah. There we go.
What do you like about Naru's icon?
Yeah, I just liked how the positioning was Nehru looking to the left, Nice Snow looking forward, and Ricky looking to the right. It was like is the classic party display in terms of looks.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
But we could also flank you and give you weird looks.
Nice
Wait.
Snow moves away from Ricky. Hide me.
You can outrun him.
Yeah.
Naru flexes his claws at Ricky.
Ah, you're being stared at.
Ah! When I get Misty Step, I swear. No.
Man, I swear this guy has a fucking character sheet. Oh, it's just a regular token. Okay, yeah, I see.
Actually, Ricky should be in the middle because he's like making up for nice
With
no.
the coffin.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, because we need the most help in the back.
Nice snow should be on the other side.
Yeah. Okay.
There. Now it looks natural.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys essentially approach this church that I had kind of described before I had to pee. You see this rising bell tower at the back end of it, and the front of the church is just like there's all this crumbled like stone on the steps, and the roof is like sagging in, and there's like a wide iron fence kind of encompassing around the outside, and as soon as you guys pass through the fence, there's like a big metal arch that's kind of open, and then halfway down on the arch there's maybe a 4-foot tall spiked rusty iron fence that encompasses the outskirts of the grave. All the flapping of the wings disperses. It goes quiet again.
Well, shall we hurry up and do this? You said we had to meet someone here, right? A priest of some sort, I take it?
Yeah, the heavy wooden doors of the church are covered with claw marks, and they look kind of scorched by fire. And, does anybody have a passive perception of 14 or greater?
Nuru.
So, Nuru, your ears kind of perk up from the back end of the coffin, and you can hear kind of a quiet, deep, raspy voice from inside beyond the doors that kind of sound like, "Morning, Lord, you have been gone for so long, but please, I pray to you again I pray, please cure my son of his ailments. I have been praying for so long and so long. Our town has been cursed, and my son has been dead. He's dead. But please bring him back. I beg you, Morning Lord." And you can kind of hear this shallow voice beyond inside of the chapel.
I mean,
Sounds kind of delirious. Sounds wicked. Not wicked, but it sounds desperate and feverish.
Nuru's ears lay back once again, and his tail sort of lashing from side to side. I don't like the sound of that.
Ismark looks down at you, Ricky, and he says, "Can you pull these doors open as well?"
I duck out from underneath it, and I go and open the doors.
As you open the door, it reveals kind of a... You guys can't see unless you're inside, huh?
Correct. We all walk in with the coffin.
Yeah, you do. As the doors open, it kind of reveals this 10-foot wide, 20-foot long hall that leads into this brightly lit chapel beyond. The hall is unlit, and it reeks of kind of a mildew scent. And there are 4 doors, 2 on each side of you, that lead to adjacent chambers. You can see that the chapel is strewn with debris, and you hear this still raspy voice calling from beyond in the center of the large chamber ahead of you, reciting prayers. Suddenly the prayers are blotted out by a somewhat inhuman scream that rises up from beneath you. between the wooden floorboards, and you can hear this voice below you, and it says, "Father, release me! I hunger! I hunger!" And you can continue to hear, after that you hear that voice, the priest increases the fervor of his prayer. "Morning Lord, please relinquish my son from the grasp of the devil, Strahd." And you see before you, as you walk down between these doors, the dusty chapel is in shambles. Overturned, broken pews litter the ground. Dozens of candles are mounted in candlesticks, bronze candlesticks, and candelabras, tall candelabras around, that light every dusty corner, and in a fervent attempt to rid the chapel of shadows, the light and the priest pray. And at the far end of the church, behind this cloth-scarred altar, you see this priest kneeling behind it in soiled vestments. Next to him is a long, thick rope hanging from the bell tower above that looks like it's tied in the shape of a noose. And again you hear from the chapel floor below a young voice cry out, "Father, I'm starving!"
I'm going to turn to this guy whose name eludes me. I'm going to say,
Ismark.
Is this the priest?
Yeah, Ismark says, "Like I said, I have not been to the church in some time. Donovich is clearly out of his mind. We must proceed carefully."
Nuru, what Nuru overheard, the priest said that his son was dead, correct?
Yes.
From the outside of the church, yeah.
And so Naru's just going to like whisper. He said his son was dead.
Nice Snow will repeat over to you. Then he must be undead.
Or maybe he has two sons.
Periwimple from between you, Nuru, and Nice Snow, he says, "We see Donovich? Periwimple, help! Periwimple, help!"
Naru's heart melts.
Yet again confirming that Naru's heart was ice.
Ismark says, "We must tread carefully." Irina says, "Go ahead, Ricky."
Well, you know this Donovich, do you not? Perhaps you should go talk to him, and perhaps we should put the coffin down here for a moment.
Irina and Ismark take a few steps forward, past you, and 10 feet before the altar, Ismark looks over at Irina and nods at her, and they set the coffin down, and together, side by side, they move kind of before the altar, and Irina goes to one side of the priest kneeling behind it in his soiled robes, and Ismark moves to the other side, kind of 10 feet away, and Irina, you see her kind of press her skirt down, move it to one side, kind of adjust the sword and kneel down next to the priest, kind of tucking her legs beneath her, and she lightly puts one hand on the priest's shoulder, and she says, "Sir Donovich, Can you hear me? Donovich! And you see Ismark kind of shake his head, put it down, as the priest continues to pray, and kind of from the other side of the altar, you hear him stop speaking almost to himself, and the whole interior of the chapel kind of goes deadly silent, except for the sound of the rain dripping from within the broken parts of the ceiling above you, and a few cracks of thunder, rumbling thunder from outside. And the only thing that breaks the silence is the voice from below again that says, "I can smell them, Father. I'm so hungry." And Donovich looks over to Irina and he puts his hand up on his shoulder on top of hers and says, "Irina, is that you? It's been so long." And Ismark, you hear him say, "He's clearly gone mad." And the priest stands up and he looks over the altar at the rest of you and he sees the coffin and he looks back at Irina and he says, "I'm sorry. What is the matter, dear? What has brought you here to the temple, to our church? It's been so long since anyone's come to pray to the morning Lord." And he looks kind of delirious. His forehead is sweating. There are big stains down his robes. It looks like this guy hasn't slept in like a year. Irina says, "Father Donovich, you are not well." And she kind of raises her hand up to his cheek and lightly strokes the kind of rough stubble that's there. And she says, "Father has died. He is no longer the Burgomaster of Barovia. We wish to give him a proper burial, and then we are going to leave. But we can see that you're in great pain, and we can hear the horrors below. Where is your son? Where is Doru?" And the priest starts to tremble, and he says, "You know. Everyone knows. But no one has come to help me. You remember the last time they came?" And he points at Nice-No and Nuru and Ricky. "You know the last time they came. They convinced my son to storm Strahd's home. You know what they did." Irina says, "You are tired. These are not the people that hurt you. They are here to help us. They are here to help us bury my father, our father. Donovich, these people did not hurt your son." And she worriedly looks over to her brother Ismark, and Ismark's kind of tensely gripping his face. And Ismark takes a few steps forward and puts his hand on the back of the priest's shoulder. He says, very gently, I remember the last travelers that came here, Danovich. I remember how persuasive they were. I remember that they convinced your son to storm Strahd's castle. And I remember no one returning. I'm sorry. I'm sorry no one has come to pray, to help you. But there is a reason. Your son was turned by Strahd. And Irina kind of collapses back down to her knees. And little teardrops kind of form in the edges of her eyes. And Donovich lets out a wail. He says, "No, it is not true." And Ismark says, "We have been listening to the wails of your prayers for a year, Father. You are tired. You are mad. And your son cannot be saved. We have come seeking your assistance to bury our father. But maybe we can help you lay your son to rest as well. The Morning Lord no longer listens to our prayers. Father Donovich, we are on our own now." And Donovich kind of sinks into a heap on the far side of the altar and begins to weep. And he looks up at the rope hanging from the bell tower of the church, and he says, "Ismark, it is true. I know it is true. I just needed to hear it. Nuru cannot be saved, but perhaps we can lay your father to rest. And perhaps we can lay Nuru to rest as well. And then you must take Irina far away from here." Ismark says, "Help us, Father. Help us lay our father to rest." And he looks at the rest of you, Ismark, and he helps the priest stand again with Irina side by side. And the priest, for the first time, his eyes kind of look clear. He looks over, down the hall of the altar, towards the rest of you, looking you one by one in turn in the eyes. He says,
No. Continue.
"Go ahead."
Well, Nice Snow is at this point gently and slowly approaching the priest, but has not quite reached him yet.
As you're approaching, once you get a few steps closer past the coffin, you actually feel the floorboards under your feet rattle for a moment, like someone's pounding on them from below you. And you hear a hiss. And Irina and Ismark kind of put their heads down. But the priest continues looking at you as you approach.
Nice Snow approaches and says, The gods don't hear everything. They are part of so much of the worlds. Evil happens without anyone wanting it to happen. And I understand you have pain.
He holds out a trembling hand towards yours.
And she says that, and she will actually take his hand, and as she does, she takes her other hand and strokes behind his jaw to the front of his chin. And as she's doing that, she will cause she will thaumaturgy her eyes to glow white and look at him and say, light can be found anywhere that you bring it with you. And she's just gonna, after she does that, she goes over and does like an awkward hug and wraps around him for it.
The priest says, I've been surrounded for so long in darkness. I don't know why, but you remind me of a better time that I can't truly remember myself. You shine brighter than anything that I've seen or remembered in a long time, child.
And Nice Snow's actually going to pull out from her pack something that none of you have seen before. She pulls out a lyre and is actually going to attempt to play a song for him from memories that she's had in the past.
Make a performance check with advantage.
15.
As you pull out your instrument and begin to play, the priest lets go of your hand and he starts to weep. And you look over at Irina and you can see now that she's weeping as well. And even Ismark has a single tear that falls out of his left eye. As he reaches his hand inside of his dark clothing, and he grips something that's on the end of a chain that's not exposed to your sight. And as you are playing your song, and the three of them on the far side of the altar are weeping for memories and mourning past, the sound of your instrument playing is interrupted by a pounding directly under your feet. And as you look down, you can actually see the debris on the top of the altar being shifted and altered. And you hear, "I can smell their blood, Father! I hunger!" And Nuru, the Donovich, the priest, for the first time after your song, or after the tune you play, his eyes truly become clear. The little glaze over his eyelids kind of dissipate like a fog. And he looks down at the floorboards underneath him and he says, "After we bury your father, Irina and Ismark, we must put my son to rest as well." And he looks at you, Nice Snow, and he says, Thank you for this tune. It was divine. And I know now what must be done. It has been a long time, but your sound rings of the Morning Lord, and now I am reminded of my purpose. Let us put our pains to rest.
And so she goes, "It shall be done."
And Periwinkle, you can see, is already lifting the back end of his coffin very bouncily, excitedly.
He's just been
I'm
bench
so
pressing this coffin.
Yeah.
Like,
Periwinkle, help! Periwinkle, help!
Is the body rolling around?
The
Bouncing
coffin's
around?
the lid of the coffin's been hammered shut, but you would assume that the body is bouncing around on the inside of it. Yes.
he's gonna wake the dead. Stop him!
Periwinkle says, "Good song, good song. Periwinkle, help! Periwinkle, help!"
He's dancing to the song with the coffin, like, yeah.
Yeah. And Donovich says, he goes, there's like, kind of like a little, he makes his way around the outside of the altar, and he gestures for Irina and Ismark to go back out of the front of the temple as well, and he stops in one of the side rooms and opens the door, and he emerges with a large holy symbol in one hand and a thick book in another. And he says, "There are shovels out in the yard. We will dig a grave for your father. And then we will come back and put Donovich to rest. Or Nuru. Sorry, my son. No.
Naru's his son.
Doru. Yeah.
You had a Tabaxi wife?
Welcome to Drunk Dungeon Mastering.
It's nice to know their mother.
Oh, no. That would be like the worst.
Weird family tree.
Yeah, the worst.
Naru would be even more
Doru,
messed up
yeah,
if I
it's yeah.
Oh goodness.
Just-
And she'd be like, "Daughter, you're hairier than I remember."
I've got like 60 NPC module names in my head right now. I apologize.
It was such a good movie.
So as you guys make your way back out of the church,
I
We
would.
need to make strength checks.
I would say while they are about to get started with that, Nice Snow is checking, and she's going to confirm with the priest. Your son is under there. What is holding him down there?
So he came out of I think he came out of this room here with his necklace and his book. And as you guys make your way down the hall, he points to this door here and he says, "He is locked in the cellar. My son Doru has been locked in the cellar for a year. That is why he hungers."
Nice Snow gets a very somber look, and she's like, "I understand why you hesitated for it. For it's a hard thing for any father to take to end their own son."
He says, "I did not know what to think at first. He came back and he was different. And
It is the...
one day he attacked me. I managed to wrestle him into the undercroft, but it was clear that he would never be this. That's just me sneezing, not the priest.
It's turning!
Plague!
It was clear that he would never be the same. And so I locked him there. And I prayed. And I have not stopped praying for a long time. I know now why it has been so long that no one has come to the church. My eyes are open, and I know now what must be done. But first, I will help you, and then you can help me and my son.
And she just looks back at the door, just like cautiously, and then we'll help them with the burial.
Yeah. So Donovich, the priest, leads you to the back of the church. There's a very thick, heavy mist. There's this wide, round gate that kind of encompasses the graveyard on the outside of the church, and Donovich looks like he's seeing something for the first time as soon as he walks out. Like it's been a long time that he's actually gazed out upon the town, and he looks kind of shocked, but he tries to keep his composure, and he opens his book kind of halfway through, and he begins to just kind of read from it in this kind of sparse language that's still common, but like a very old common, like a lot of words that people just don't use anymore, you know. I'm gonna blow my nose.
Yeah.
Alright.
As he leads you guys with Periwimple very excitedly at the back of the coffin out into the grounds, Donovich says he kind of gestures to this open plot of grass that's kind of heavily overgrown, and he pats Periwimple on the shoulder, and he says, I'm glad that you're still alive, child. I'm sorry I have failed you.
Nuru,
I promise I will look after you better. Now that my eyes have been opened. And he says, Periwimple, please help us dig a grave for the Burgomaster. And he kind of points over to one side nearby where there's like these rusty shovels leaned up against the rot fence that the mists are kind of pressing in against. And now again you can all kind of hear your dungeon master blow his nose. And
the thunder is quite loud.
And,
The DM is cut.
The god is angry.
God? Is that you?
Nuru, do you have the highest passive perception of a 14?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Why doesn't everyone make some? Well, why don't you guys tell me what you're thinking or focused on right now as like you make your way out into this kind of grave in the back of the church? Why don't you guys just tell me what you're
Nuru
thinking, feeling, looking at?
Nuru is mainly focused on the conversation that the priest is having with Periwimple right now. Specifically, I have failed you. He's wondering exactly what went on and why is the priest surprised that Periwimple is still alive. However, he's also like his ears are like keeping twitching, or like He's scanning for other sound.
make a perception check then for me, Nuru.
Oh.
What about Nice Snow?
Nice Snow is genuinely worried about the priest's mental state, but is comforted to see that he's doing better.
He looks like he's kind of gained his composure, at least for now. You know, he looks like he's like deliberately opened his book to a certain spot, and he's gripping his half-sun holy symbol on the outside of his robe. He looks a little embarrassed as he looks down at himself. You know, he looks at the state of his priestly garments, and he can even you see him even like kind of hold his arm out and his hand out, and surprisingly kind of look at it like in a little bit of shock to see the state of how pale and frail that he's become. And you kind of remember the brief moment that he mentioned that he'd been praying there in the temple for like a year.
So I would say that Nice Snow is lingering on that comment of praying there for a year, and she has this sense of like it's pretty much a full description of feeling pity on him for adhering so zealously to the god, and B, for letting it cloud his better judgment. But also feeling pity for him being put in that harsh situation in the first place.
Yeah. She really kind of
she's lost in her mind.
Mostly focused on the priest and kind of lost in your mind.
Yeah.
Okay. What about Ricky?
He's terrified, like with the flapping of wings above him, the weird human man creature angry person in the floor. He just wants to like dig the grave, put the body in it, and leg it the fuck out of town.
So you are very paranoid, Ricky, and you kind of hear all this stuff that's gone on, and you hear this desperate voice calling out from beneath the chapel, and as you step out into the graveyard in the mist that's kind of enveloping around the wrought iron fence that encompasses the graveyard, you touch your hand up again just to the inside of your collar. You feel still that like the wound is still kind of producing a little bit of fresh blood, and you touch it, and you bring your hand out and you look down at this fresh crimson blots on the ends of your fingers, and you look up into the mists and you make a perception check with advantage.
As long as he's still bleeding, he's still human.
Yeah. I imagine Ricky like digging part of the grave and looking around nervously every time he does trouble.
Ricky, you see this through the gray mist that's kind of sprawling over the top and the sides of the chapel and the fence of the graveyard. A bolt of lightning kind of flashes down towards the party, towards the chapel, towards the church, and just lights and strikes the sky above you all. And then there's a deep rumble of thunder that just instantly follows behind it. And in that moment, as you look up towards the 1,000-foot stone pillar resting at the edge of the graveyard high above, that flash of light breaks the mist a bit, and you see this massive set of wings with this central dark figure between it, and it's flapping like a bat, but just this massive bat that's flying down towards the chapel. and it's you almost just feel like it's just because you're so scared or so nervous, and you've heard all the flapping before. But you see this figure as the light splits the sky and the rumble of the thunder rolls in. You just see this outline of this massive bat flapping down towards the church.
I say out loud, guys, there's a giant bat in the sky. Maybe we should hurry this up.
Can we take a quick break?
Yeah, that's 5-minute break. Let's go.
Okay, 5-minute break.
It's some sort of Batman.
And we just hear the dun 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 dun.
Ooh, aren't you fancy with your break screen?
Yeah,
Wait,
but
what?
it's
Ryan, he's got a break screen for the Twitch.
Okay.
it's a TOA break screen though.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I tried to do I didn't try, but I planned to do a COS one.
Oh, where is my snack? Here. Get over here, buddy.
Nice Snow begins eating rations.
Yes, sir. I desperately needed to use the bathroom.
Yeah, no, for sure, it's all good.
Don't hold it, just say you gotta
I
cover.
did. I mean, I did need the bathroom.
Does
but it was,
does everyone have at least another hour in them?
I have like 5.
I mean, is what gonna happen last week happen when we just all hang around for like another 12 hours? Ooh, I broke someone.
I know at least for me that's not going to be the case, mainly due to me having to have appointments tomorrow. So
So how much time do you got, Nice Snow?
well, I easily have an hour or two, but
Oh, okay.
after that,
Yeah, no, at least just at least an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking for.
Yeah, he needs to there to kill us.
For my dragon.
I'll let you know if I really have to go.
Yeah, I mean, it might be kind of fun to do 2. We'll see how it goes. But
Go
just
now,
just
then
one,
check
just at least 1 hour, just 1 hour left.
2.
Yeah.
2.
2?
Let's go for
Well,
2, and if I really need to leave, I'll let you know.
I'll call in sick tomorrow. We'll just play for the next 48 hours. It's whatever.
Okay.
Let's do some character building. Oh yeah!
I mean,
We start
saying,
role playing our bathroom breaks in game. We start eating random things in the forest to try to survive. We're going full Paul Bundy on this.
Yeah.
D&D survival game.
Oh, it'd be so much fun. Like I would so badly want to play Tribes.
I think the next time that I do like a random session with you guys, like when I offer one, I want to try to attempt to offer it at a time where as many people that can play as possible can play for like 10 or 12 hours. Just to be
Yeah, that'd be
fucking
great.
like delirious D&D by the end. Like
That would be so amusing. I would watch that.
like level 127 in one sitting or some shit, like, right?
Like,
Oh, by the way, please let me know if you can hear me chewing, because I want to be a little hungry boy, but I don't want to be a hungry boy who's making noise.
I cannot hear you chewing, but I didn't realize how much foam I had in my beer when I poured it, so I'll BRB because I poured a short beer.
Yeah. Whenever you're pouring that stuff, you need to like let it sit for a bit so it levels out, so you know how much you actually have. Because
I don't drink.
I don't drink either, but I've been to enough parties that I really know.
Oh, I'm not old enough to drink. I mean, I'm above 18. I'm totally above 18. Wait, yeah, I'm fucking above 18. What am I talking about?
Too bad you live in America.
It's more about how old you feel, and in terms of drinking alcohol, you have to go by the biological standard for how it affects you. So there is like an age appropriateness for alcohol in terms of mental development.
Well, I am 34, and I was an alcoholic legitimately for like 10 years.
Yeah.
I do okay now. Like, I drink when I play D&D, and that's essentially the only times for the most part. But
well, yeah, it's essentially social drinking. There are other people around.
Yeah.
They might not be drinking.
That's how I sell it to myself.
No, that makes sense. If you're sitting there alone talking to yourself,
but there are times, like, there's definitely been times where I'm D&Ding and I just get too drunk, and like there's videos if you watch TOA where I'm just like slurring. I'm just slurring my speech, and I'm not going to take those videos down because that's just who I am, man. Legitimately, that's just who I am. It happens sometimes, and fuck it, right?
Yeah. In terms of the studies that are done in terms of brain development, like women their mind has already mentally matured by 18, whereas some guys it can go anywhere from like 20 to 25
to 87.
It's mostly about it's mostly about where the brain settles in terms of its developmental period, and of course it changes for everybody. But if you get drunk during that developmental period, it can affect how your brain.
Well, I didn't drink like at all in high school. I didn't drink until high school was over, and all my friends were like smoking weed and drinking in high school, and so I at least waited to have sex and drink alcohol and do drugs until after high school.
Yeah.
My father,
likewise.
My father, he graduated in 73, so he's 63 years old this year. So when he was in high school, he started drinking and doing all that. And he continued for about 30 years. But I think my father's actually been sober for 33 years now.
Oh, I had like a hard decade of blackout. Like, I don't remember 22 through 32, essentially. Yeah, I had like a hard decade of blackout drinking.
Like, I have maybe one drink
but
every 2 years.
But I waited till later on to start, so.
Yeah, so it's probably better. It's probably good.
Yeah.
That was probably like the wisest choice. For me, I still haven't gotten drunk, but I'm probably way past the mental development period, so.
Yeah.
I'm 19 and I still haven't did anything, so. I'm safe.
And yeah, I mean, there was definitely. By the way, I'm recording and streaming all this, so I'm just dropping it. I'm just dropping it out on the table. But yeah, there was
so
plenty.
Committed any felonies recently?
There was No, I haven't committed any felonies recently. No.
Remember, community, always do your own research. Take what we say with only that it is our knowledge that we've accumulated or our opinion.
Do not drink
Do
not drink alcohol until you are after 21 years old, and you can make that decision for yourself. Do not do drugs ever, because they're fun and they'll fuck you up. And you know, play a lot of D&D because it's cool.
Peer pressure.
Just remember,
that's my this is my basic advice to everyone. Don't drink till after you're 21. Don't ever do drugs because they're fun but they're bullshit. And play a lot of D&D. That's my basic advice.
Just remember, D&D isn't real, so all the stories we're telling aren't real.
Yeah.
Not good. Not good, Frankie. Not good. You gotta find your snakes.
Attendant Austin, are you in here, buddy?
Fully crawling up your nose. He's now in your brain. You are now a snake.
Okay, so getting back into the game mindset.
Well, let's wait for Nuru to stop panicking.
Arthur?
I think we're all about to start panicking at this giant bat.
I mean,
I found him, guys.
You guys might just think I'm crazy.
Nice.
He's right here. You little fucker.
Put a bell on him.
Alright, you're going in here.
Oh my.
Well, it's cool. Periwinkle is digging the shit out of a grave right now. And Donovich is essentially pulled like a... one of the things that he brought out of his chamber was a vial. And as Periwinkle digs, Donovich, the priest, begins to pour this liquid over the opening of the dirt that it's probably, you could assess as holy water. And as Periwinkle digs and Ismark digs with Periwinkle, and there's a couple more shovels, so is anyone helping to dig this grave?
I'm worried if I go in the grave I won't get out.
Yeah.
Periwinkle will get you out.
Nuru is helping as much as Nuru can help.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice Snow is mostly just keeping an eye out. She realizes where her place is. She's not strong, so she's gonna be keeping an eye out.
Periwinkle and Ismark dig like a madman, and they dig like a 6-foot grave. And Ismark's kind of like he's a lot taller than Periwinkle. So Ismark kind of boosts Periwinkle out of the hole that they dig, and Ismark, you can see, reaches his arms up and kind of wrenches himself up out of the grave as well. And Ismark, as he pulls himself up, slaps his hand down on Periwinkle's shoulder, and you see a bit of dirt and dust flap off, and Periwinkle grins up at Ismark and says, "I helped." And Ismark says, "You did." And then Ismark, the casket's kind of set at the edge, right at the lip of the hole they've dug, and he just kind of pushes his foot out as hard as he can, and you hear a crack and a groan as the coffin of Ismark's and Irina's father slammed down in the bottom of the 6-foot hole. And Ismark looks over to Donovich and he says, "Father?" And Donovich says, "My mind has been clear. I have been praying in vain. I know now that we are alone here in the mists. But still, I call out to you Morning Lord, bless this man as he falls to the earth. Watch over these people who help us. And when my son dies, truly dies, take him into your light. And the priest begins to weep. And Irina begins to weep. And again, a few tears spill out of Ismark's eyes.
And,
While they were in the hole digging, Nuru probably would have taken the time to ask Periwinkle some questions.
Sure. I just got kicked out of Roll20, so. BRB!
Also, is there a gravestone by any chance?
Not currently.
That's pretty darn fancy.
Not currently. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. That's a good question. Would I be able to cast light on the dirt above the grave to like make the dirt glow?
Yeah, sure.
So Nice Snow will do that. She'll cast light on the grave to make the whole grave glow.
Okay. So the grave begins to glow as Donovich says his prayer for the Burgomaster of Barovia. And as Donovich finishes his prayer very clearly, broadly, but fervently, he says, Morning Lord, accept this man into his land. We have been thrust into darkness for so long, but please accept his soul into your light. He will lie here from now until the end of time. But perhaps he shed enough light upon our people to give him grace in your eyes. And now we lay him finally to rest. Let his daughter and son know that their father lies in the light and in peace in your eyes, Morning Lord. And please, while my mind is clear, forgive my son as well. Because soon you might meet him. But I know he has done foul deeds. So, I release them both to you. Lathander, Morning Lord, Lord of Light, please accept their souls and guide Irina and Ismark to safety. And Ismark tosses one last shovel full of dirt onto his father's grave and hucks the shovel down beside him in the rain. And another flash of light crashes across the sky. And Nuru and Ricky, you see a solitary man, a shadow, a figure standing at the edge of the fence as the rain and the thunder and the lightning crashes down across the graveyard of the temple of Barovia. And nice snow. You don't see this figure, but you feel a chill down your spine and a familiar presence. Something almost like a shadow.
And as she feels that, she like breathes forward, and you can see the mist, cold. You can see her breath in front of her as a white mist and such, and she remembers the cold that she felt up in the north.
Donovich, the priest, closes his book with a thunk, and a bit of dust you see spits out from the pages. And he looks at you all, and he says, "Now it is time to lay my son to rest."
Nuru draws his sword.
Ismark says, "Father Donovich, but I cannot risk her life. We will wait in the chapel with you while our new friends guide your son to the afterlife, if they can."
Oh, they don't try. We don't mind.
Naru's back stiffens and he just shoots Ismark a glare.
Ismark meets your gaze, and he says, "The greatest chance you have to leave this place is if my sister Irina survives. I am her greatest protector because I trust myself and I trust my sister. You have helped my family greatly, but I can't trust you still. Maybe after this next task, I will have more faith, because my faith has been gone for some time." And you see him draw like a uncorked bottle of wine from his satchel and take like a big swig. And
Saying that, I yell at him and say, "Use the glass!"
Donovich says, "Our Burgomaster did his best, but like most that live here in this place, he fell to Strahd's clawed grasp."
When Naru sees Ismark take a swig of wine, his eyes are just going to narrow.
Yeah, you probably have a flash of your father.
Oh, for sure.
Donovich says, "If it wasn't for your arrival, my judgment would have remained clouded as well. I was prepared to end my own life, but now I know my purpose. And I know that my son is lost. But I can try to continue to help the people of Barovia, even after Ismark and Irina spirit away from this place. If I could give you any advice, it would be to take Irina as far away from here as you can. Bring her to the Abbey of Saint Markovia. There she will be safe. It is the most holy place that exists in these lands. After you help me put my son, Nuru, to rest, please get Irina far away from here as you can. Ismark says, we plan to, Father. Thank you. Thank you for helping us bury our father. And thank you for looking after our people in my absence.
Upon hearing this,
And as the thunder cracks again, and the rain starts to pour down thicker, and a flash of light comes out across the sky, even out in the graveyard from the inside of the church, there's this wretched, piercing scream. Father! I hunger! Bring me sustenance, or set me free! And nice now, as that sound rings out from the inside of the church, outside of this thunder and the rain, you have a flash in your mind. And you feel a tingle in your own neck, and even though there's no wound, you have this flash of memory of fangs and terror and death. Did I say Nuru or Nice No?
Nice to know.
Okay, cool. Danovich says, Ismark, your father is buried, but we have more business. Well, we have another soul to lay to rest. Let us return to the church. And although I will never stop praying for my son, it is time for him to stop suffering.
Have you tried telling him to get some exercise?
Out of character, I like how it's like, you guys go do it. You got no reason to do it. Go do it. Come on. We're not going to do it. You do it.
Nice No is definitely gonna do it. She made that.
Well,
she's like,
as you guys make your way back into the church, you hear Donovan takes up the lead and leads you all back through the graves towards the front of the church doors that are hanging open. And as you make your way into the front of the temple, the first door on the right, Donovich opens, and you can see that inside of this dark room. There's a hole in the roof, and water's kind of pouring down inside, and the ceiling's kind of crumbled in on itself with age, and there's a trap door in the floor, and a chain over the top of it that's locked, and right next to the holy symbol on Donovich's neck is a key, and he pulls the chain over the top of his head, and he kneels down on top of the trapdoor in the floor, and he sticks the key in the lock and twists it, and you hear a click, and the scraping of metal on wood and stone as he pulls it away, and he lifts the floorboard up that's been trapped for the last year, and the screeching and the hollering for blood and food goes quiet, and he looks up at the rest of you and he says, I can't bear to lay my son to rest, but I know what he is. I have helped you. Now you must help me. And I would like you all to select your tokens and roll initiative.
Just before I do that, Ricky's going to ask that could you provide us any assistance to the cleric? I'm not asking him to come down with us.
Make a persuasion check.
Sure.
With advantage.
17.
He pulls a small vial from inside his robes of clear looking water, and he says, this is holy water. It has been blessed. When he is already weak, but when it is time to finish him, pour this upon him, and hopefully he will not rise again. And he hands you this little vial of clear liquid.
I take it and I put it in my pocket. And say, thank you. I'll return shortly.
Ismark
Still
and
terrified, but I'm
Irina. Yeah. Ismark and Irina will help in this combat.
I
Oh,
thought
really?
he said he wouldn't risk her.
Oh, they said they wouldn't.
No, the priest said he wouldn't.
I
that's
thought he said he wouldn't risk putting Irina near the vampire. Which we don't know it's a vampire yet, but it's a vampire.
Did I say that?
Yeah.
Alright, well, mistaken. Irina actually does say... Did I really
Ugh.
say that? I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ismark
Yeah.
said we have no
Too
hope
much
unless prove it to
wine.
yourself. And you
Alright.
like fucking drink a wine.
Man, these headphones are dang good. That thunder roll actually sounded like it was outside my house. Oh, I mean,
So I
tired
guess who goes? If I did say that, I guess I gotta stick with it. So, who goes first down into the basement?
Nice Snow will head it up and cast
Wait,
dancing light.
actually, let me pull up the initiative order. I guess.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm last in the initiative order.
Donovich pulls up this chain off the floorboards and looks over towards the rest of you, and Nuru, you're kind of up in the front, bunched up, and you're first.
Oh shit, he should have asked Periwinkle. Whatever.
No.
No, I think what's appropriate is that Periwinkle does help. Like, Periwinkle's like, I help.
I think that's to make up the fact that we're down a person.
And like he's like right at like you just because you have a better dex, he's right after you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna say the funny. I help. Gets bit by vampire, becomes the vampire. I eat. I'm just gonna my ideas. That has to be his tagline if he becomes a vampire. Okay, now let's go with Colin, and we'll see where the dice fall.
But Donovich looks up at the rest of you, and Nuru, you're kind of up at the front of the bunch, and you kind of hear this hissing in the darkness down below.
Just because it's easier, can we swap to the other map?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on if you go down or not. So.
Yeah. Nuru's like I don't know where to. Like, is it here?
Well, yeah. So I'll.
Like, I've seen the other map. Can we just all like cower on the stairwell for now, and then decide if we go down or not?
Well, shit! I just deleted you.
A boulder comes crashing down. You die.
Yeah. Nice Snow essentially is going to light up that entire chamber. Like she's going to try to make sure that there's no place this thing can hide.
So you can cast light on like Nuru if you want. I'll allow it.
Okay. Yeah. She basically.
Please. Okay.
Yeah. Like she needs it. She has dark vision, but okay.
So can you see down there, Nuru?
Yeah, he has dark vision anyway.
Okay. So Ricky, you pile down the stairs as well.
I'd be right behind, using someone as cover.
Where are they?
I'm also going to say I cast light on my.
Okay, well,
button.
I guess let me get to. Man, I really fucked this turn order up. Okay, there we go. So you see Nuru, Periwinkle, Ricky. Ismark I will delete because apparently I said that they would not take part. Pour down the stairs. So Nuru, you get down. Ricky, you get down kind of by Nuru. Periwinkle comes stumbling down behind the rest of you. And he's saying, Periwinkle help!
I kill.
Periwinkle help! Periwinkle help! And is this a dynamic lighting map for you guys? Like, are the pillars kind of casting light?
Yeah.
Man, this whole thing is like just totally lit up for me, so I can't tell what the vampires like.
We can see it.
Okay.
We can see it, so it can probably see us.
Let me.
Like, if I move on to his square, you can
cool.
clearly see
Let me.
where we are.
I just need to pull his stats up. So, down here it's very dark. There are only kind of shreds of light that are poking down through all of the candelabras and candlelights from above. And,
The werewolf is back! The dog, the wolves are back!
you might be a guest star next week. But out of the darkness and the shadows, suddenly from like one side of a thin pillar, Nuru, a hand grips, slashes out with blinding speed to try to grasp you. And kind of like from above you, you feel this presence like hanging off the ceiling, and you look up through the thin lights of the floorboard, and you hear a hiss, and then these like sharp claws kind of grasp and slash down, and then the figure drops down in front of you onto the floor, and both attacks miss. Irina is not a part of this battle because apparently I said that they were not taking part. So Nice Snow, you charge down the stairs as well. You have 30 feet now if you can see this map.
Yeah, I moved myself over. Just to make sure. Okay. And as Nice Snow's down there, does she see him? Oh wait, that's right. I just entered, so her first action would be dancing lights.
Okay.
She would cast the dancing lights all throughout the cavern to light it up as far as she could.
Is that an action or a bonus action?
I believe that's an action. Yeah, it's one action.
So if you dancing lights throughout the whole map,
four torch-sized lights.
I will disable dynamic lighting so everyone can just see the whole thing. And this kind of undercroft appears, and there's like hay, and you all see this kind of dilapidated, scrawny figure with pointed, glistening fangs lash out at Nuru, and it seems kind of like a weak attempt. And then Nice Snow comes down the stairs and casts all these lights out, and the whole undercroft becomes apparent to everyone. And Nuru, you're up again.
Naru's going to sort of hiss and stab at this decrepit creature with his sword.
Okay.
It's a hiss off.
I think he hit. I think he maybe hit.
No,
26 is a hit for sure.
It's a miss.
And
Wow,
wait,
that extra damage.
oh.
Yeah, and you double the sneak attack for a crit.
Yeah.
Oh. Is it...
23.
23 total.
And he uses his bonus action to GTFO. So he's going to go back here. Actually, over here, he's gonna sort of attempt to hide.
Yeah, there's kind of like these bright, sparkling lights illuminating now the whole undercroft of the church. And Periwimple lumbers down the steps,
What did I go
and
for?
he stops next to Ricky, and he looks over at you, Ricky, and he says, "Periwimple, help?" And in kind of a questioning manner.
Yes, get him. When did I go before Periwimple?
Yes. Well, I mean,
We can do it next round, it doesn't matter.
well, you say yes, get him, and Periwimple attempts to grapple Doru. And he does. He kind of charges after you say that, Ricky, and wraps his, like, muscled arms around Doru, and now Doru is grappled by Periwimple. He's not restrained, he's just grappled. Now you're up, Ricky.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to change what I was gonna do, so I'm going to just cast, Vicious Mockery.
Okay.
I say, you look stupid. Eat something.
I lost my snake again.
So he takes 4 psychic damage. And has disadvantage on his next attack.
Ooh, nice.
So he's going to have disadvantage on breaking the grapple he's in. And so Periwinkle remains kind of wrapped around Doru, holding him in place. And Nice Snow, you're up.
Nice Snow takes a look at this person, and you hear her voice, and it is filled with a sense of like anger almost. And she goes towards it, and she holds out her hand forward, and you can see a light extending out of her hand, and she goes, "You are broken. Let the light fix you." And her hand extends out, and she's going to chill touch him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does
11 hit?
It does not. So you actually see, like, you see Periwinkle's shoulder kind of glaze over in frost, and then, like, the top of Doru's shaggy brown hair as well. And you hear Periwinkle say, he's like, his teeth are chattering, and he says, he looks back at you and he says, "Doru, Periwinkle, help! Help!" And his teeth are like chattering at you. Doesn't take any damage, but it's just...
No.
Yeah.
How do you?
Got anything else, Nice Snow? You gonna move down?
No, Nice Snow is actually going to stay in the doorway, imposing herself.
Cool. Nuru, you're up.
How far away is he?
20 feet.
Perfect. Alright, Naru's going to run up and take a quick stab with the short sword. 20 hit?
20 does hit, for sure, yeah.
Alright. He's gonna add sneak attack for 15 damage and then go back behind pillar again.
Okay.
Well, disengaging, obviously.
Yeah.
Disengaging. He disengages.
Periwinkle seems very excited. He draws a kind of a broken end of a spear. Like, there's a little bit of wood that he draws out from, like, inside of his shirt, and it's got a sharp end on it. And he tries to stab as he's grappling Doru with it. And he does it twice.
Oh, where'd he get his
It's
spear from?
It's a 2d6.
Jeez.
And he does it very quickly. He kind of draws this end of this spearhead out and just really jabs it in quickly twice. And you kind of like hear Doru like let out breath on the first one, and then hiss, and he kind of flips out his hands, and you can kind of, it almost seems like his fangs and his fingernails like instantly get a little longer as he gets stabbed twice by by Periwinkle with this little like spearhead on the end of a thick little stick.
I'm just getting this image of Periwinkle like choking him across the neck with one arm and taking the spear, just jabbing it in his ribs.
Yeah, it's,
and going, "I'm helping, I'm
yeah.
helping."
Yeah, he does. Yeah, like he just jabs it in twice, and he does. He's like, "Periwinkle, help! Periwinkle, help!" And he's just sticking his spearhead into the end. Ricky, you're up.
Periwinkle is no longer cute.
Yeah, no, not at all. He's terrifying.
I'm gonna do something dumb, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I cast Hold Person.
Okay.
So it's a wisdom check. Well, save, sorry. It's a fail, I take it, unless
Yeah,
it's disadvantage.
it's a fail.
Alright, so he's restrained and paralyzed. Well, not restrained, he's paralyzed. At the end of his turn, he can make another save.
Yeah. As Periwimple is driving this little spear end into Doru's abdomen, you see kind of Doru go stiff and look even more shocked and terrified than he did before you came down here. He's clearly going through even more trauma than he has for the past year just being starved. And at the end of his turn, all he can do is make a wisdom saving throw. What is your DC?
It's 13. So
Okay.
who does that go to?
It goes to him. Yeah, he
Then I will use cutting words.
yeah. Okay.
So it's an 8.
Yeah, so he fails and remains just stunned in shock. And Nice Snow, you're up.
Nice
So-
snow. What's? Yep. Sorry.
FYI, all attacks on him will now have advantage and be automatic crits.
Yeah, I looked that up really quick when you did it.
Yeah, when he's paralyzed, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
the
so-
crit thing's only if you're in 5 feet, though.
So Nice Snow will once again extend her hand out, and she's like, "You're broken. Let the light heal you." And comes back at him with a chill touch for 14.
14 is miss.
14 is a miss.
Yeah.
Wow. So you see her like reaching out her hand, but not much is happening. Like the light is fizzling each time she does it, and she looks back at her hand like, "What's going on?" And that's the end of her turn.
Nuru, you're up.
Nerd dashes back out once again. Does a stibbity stabbity.
Yeah. 22 is a hit. 24 is a hit.
Because we have advantage, right?
Yes. 24 is a hit.
Alright.
It's a no matter. It's a crit, so roll your d6 again.
Oh, so I can roll my d6 again?
Yeah, because it's an automatic crit. And you'd roll your sneak attack again.
Alright, so R1d6. And then
Wait, is he still paralyzed? I thought he passed the thing
I
in
don't
order
know.
to become unparalyzed.
He failed it.
no, he
Okay.
fails.
Well, he cutting word.
Oh
The
yeah, that's
saving
right.
throw,
That's right.
Yeah.
Got it.
So 18, 24 total.
Oh, it disengages and runs back over here.
Okay. Periwimple continues to joyously stab his little spearhead, chanting, "Periwimple help! Periwimple help!"
Still so terrifying. Oh God!
And roll
Oh.
the 2d6 again, I guess.
Oh.
The creature falls to the ground. His dark eyes roll back in his head. He begins to convulse and twitch. Nice Snow. From behind, Donovich presses past you with a long wooden stake in one of his hands. He rushes down the stairs and jams it directly into the heart where his son lies convulsing on the ground. Instantly, as the wooden piece of probably like a piece of the pews above from the church pierces the chest of his son. He falls limp, and the child's eyes go clear momentarily. He looks up at his priestly father and he says, Thank you. Right before his eyes roll back into his head. And that is where we will end Session 4 of Curse of Strahd. So, thank you, anybody that's watching right now, for tuning in. And come back next week for more Curse of Strahd.
Yay!